Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
It is Game Day Live on a Saturday morning, and Baylor football and the fan base are thirsty for a win. And if it doesn't come today, if you think the last couple of weeks have been tough, imagine what would happen today. Baylor hosting Long Island in a game that had to be just kind of made up because of what happened with the series against Louisiana Tech, where they pulled out to start a series with Missouri. La Tech was getting an extra home game out of all of that, and so that's why Albany last year and Long Island today are just after 11 o'clock kickoff. I'm David Smoak with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, Garrett Ross running the mothership, and thanks to everybody at the KWTX studios for bringing you this show on their great television station. So Baylor is 0-2, Long Island today just after 11 o'clock. Here's a graphic of the longest losing streaks in college football as of now. Nevada with 12. Baylor. Then there's Ball State and Virginia. Virginia lost again last night. Then you have Arkansas State, UConn, and North Texas, all with 4 straight. If that doesn't have Baylor's name off the list next week, I don't even know what to say. But, Paul, they just need a win no matter who they're playing.
Yeah, they need to feel joy again and build some sort of confidence. This is one of those weird games where you can get a win and maybe even get a really huge one and probably get a really huge one, but we won't learn that much about the team. Like, there won't be anything you can say, well, how can they put this into practice against Texas and UCF and Texas Tech coming up? We really maybe won't get to see a lot of that, but right now that's all inconsequential because that's the future. The present is just get the big win like you're supposed to and maybe start playing with a little more confidence than you've been over the last year.
Yeah, they just need to win. I mean, the fact that we've gone for 6 straight games now of doing a pregame show, doing postgame, doing whatever, talking about this team 6 straight times, they've walked away losers in the end. That's just something that has to change for the mindset, the psyche, the whole aura of the not only team but the program and the fan base and everything. I mean, I think everybody's kind of at their wits' end with just the different amounts of ways they've seen this team lose games over their last 6 outings. And I mean, here's the thing about it is you go back 6 games, and I've seen people who kind of want to dismiss the 4 games losing streak heading into this season because it's not the same team. And they're right. But as fans of the program, you are watching 6 straight losses. Yeah, sure, Sawyer Robertson wasn't here for those first 4 games of losing streak, but a lot of other guys were. Blake Shapen was here. A bunch of other guys were. So for a lot of guys, this is a 6-game losing streak. It's just 2 games for this particular team, and that's great that it's not 6. But, they have to win this game today. And it's not just the 6 games in a row. You look at that, but do you know when the last home game they won was?
I'm going to say against Iowa State. Or was that even a road game?
That was way before. That was home. That was early in the year last year. But they actually got a win over Kansas like 3 weeks after that.
Okay.
Which was October the 22nd. October 22nd was the last time
11 months ago
this team has won a home game. So they beat Kansas, they went and beat Tech in Lubbock, they beat Oklahoma, and then they went on that slide where they lost big in Waco to Kansas State, lost to TCU here in Waco, lost to Texas down in DKR, Air Force, and then got into these first 2 games at home where they've lost again. So that's 4 straight home games they've lost. And, it's been nearly a year since you've seen them win a game at home, and so hopefully that changes today.
Well, here's the thing that is probably even more frustrating. They can talk, or whoever can say, what about last year? The bottom line is that Baylor's lost 6 consecutive games, and none of them have been like something where, man, that was an incredible game. And that was after winning 2 emotional games on the road against Texas Tech and Joey McGuire in Lubbock, 45-17, and then went into Norman and took out Oklahoma 38-35. So today it is Long Island. We're now joined by Chad Botherine. He's with KWTX at McLean Stadium. Chad, thanks for your time. I really don't know what to expect today when it comes to any kind of crowd. The fan base is angry and frustrated and maybe even like just neutral. Your thoughts about right now? It's going to be kind of a little bit moist, but it does not seem like it's going to rain today. Thanks for being a part of the pregame show.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to join you guys. And, I've been here for maybe about an hour or so. It was super foggy, so I couldn't see anybody if they were here. But you're starting to see some fans kind of trickle in. There are a lot of people here for the tailgate. And so I'm not going to say that they have the biggest smiles on their faces necessarily, because, I mean, it's hard to. And, I mean, I think bottom line is nobody wants to root on an 0-3 team. Now, I don't necessarily anticipate that happening, but, it's not out of the possibility from what we've seen the first 2 weeks. It's kind of what we've all kind of been talking about all week long.
Oh, Chad, I mean, how much do you think, though, that a win would maybe buoy this team to get them out of just the funk, confidence-wise, that they're in?
Oh, they could use this as, a huge, trampoline to really get back on the saddle, on, really get back on their winning wagon. And, I mean, they need this. But I don't necessarily think they just need a win. They need a big win. I mean, I think, 2-3 score win would really, really help them, because, you don't want it to come down to, third, fourth quarter. They're still in this game. It's like, what are we doing? But they really need a huge win. They need to really make a huge statement. And, from what we saw with Utah, it wasn't the worst showing with number 12 team in the country. So, I mean, so you can definitely hang your hats on that, but they need a big win, at least 2-3 touchdowns.
Chad, one of the things, this team, there aren't any dynamic type personalities. It's kind of a team that kind of goes about their business, even from the quarterback position, although Sawyer Robertson's got a little bit of that rah-rah in him, who started last week. Shapen just kind of goes about his business. Did you, during the week at all, have any kind of inclination that someone was just ready to say, damn it, we have to play better?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to last week. I mean, I look at Matt Jones, look at the defense. I mean, he came to play. He was a leading tackler, had a couple big plays, broke up a few passes that honestly kept Baylor in the game, especially in the second half, and a few broken passes up in the first half. And so, I mean, for me, defensively, he was kind of the one that really stepped up and say, hey, we really need to show up. Our season's not over just after, one loss at Texas State, which, by the way, I think this Texas State team, I think they surprised a lot of people. I don't think that's the worst loss in the entire world, but he really stepped up. In terms of some other playmakers, I mean, I was surprised that we didn't see a lot of, I guess, more catches or targets to Drake Dabney, because he showed out. Obviously, they needed him on the line for protection against Utah, which, all those guys, some of the top defensive prospects, but I was surprised that they didn't try to target him more.
Chad, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you and check in with you again a little bit later on, closer to the end of the pregame, which will be at 10:30 for us. Kickoff at just after 11. Chad Bothering, KWTX, as you can see with McLean Stadium just over his shoulder. So looking at the Big 12 today, there are a handful of games at 11 o'clock, the Baylor game with Long Island, but the one that jumps out at me and should is the Kansas State game, ranked 15th in the country, defending Big 12 champions, on the road against an SEC West, and even the SEC, which has been not so sparkling as we're used to seeing with them. And you never know. That's an old Big 8 game, an old Big 12 game. Looking forward to seeing what happens with that one.
SEC East in Mizzou.
That's right.
Yeah. I will say this. This is why this is a bit of a trap game, even though Mizzou has been very bland over the years. Eli Drinkwitz needs a signature win, and this would probably be it if they could get it. I just think that Kansas State is just so ridiculously fundamentally sound in the ways that, people would say is kind of boring, because that's Chris Kleiman, and that, you're going to block and tackle before you do anything else. Like, sometimes I wonder if they practice it at the football to make sure that that's what they do right. And you're not going to have penalties. You're going to play really smart. And then you're going to see the athletes. So I think Kansas State just has a little bit too much. I think that what we've seen in the first couple of weeks, Will Howard maybe picked up where he left off, and the addition of Trayshawn Ward has helped at least buoy the loss of Deuce Vaughn, who is as irreplaceable as a college football player as you get.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a time when K-State can move on beyond Deuce being mentioned, but it's just part of who they are, because we haven't seen, but a couple of games, and in those cases, they haven't really needed him, and, guys haven't necessarily emerged in the national scene to make people forget about Deuce Vaughn just yet, but, they're past that now, and are they that team, I think, is the big question. They've got a lot of the elements minus him back from that, and that leads you to believe that that's why they're going to be, in that same vicinity when it comes to the end of the year, and certainly the way they played through these first couple games. I mean, they look about like the only team that just head up right now is going to challenge Texas in the Big 12. I don't have a lot of confidence in the rest of the league right now. Like with Texas at their best or close to their best, who could challenge them? I think K-State's maybe the only one or one of the only ones that can possibly do that. But look, they haven't played anybody these first 2 weeks. That Troy team they played is not like tough Troy that we've come to know. That's like a Troy team that's just there right now. So this will be their first big test. And I'm, curious to see how they do on the road against an SEC team who, is not the top or the cream of the crop of that division or league, but they've still been recruiting in those waters and have talent and guys like Luther Burden and so on. So, yeah, that'll be a good game. The spread's only like 3.5. It's in Missouri. So, yeah, that's something where they could be playing with a little bit of fire if they're not careful.
I am not afraid of change. As an old military brat, you had to get used to it every 3 or 4 years. The government told your dad he was going somewhere. But I still, when I see Kansas State, Missouri, some old Big 8 games, of course, they were a part of the Big 12 until Missouri bolted with A&M. But it's kind of nice to reflect back on what used to be in college football, which is no longer even close to what it is now today. Iowa State on the road against against Ohio after the loss last week to Iowa. At 2:30 today, Oklahoma. They beat SMU, and I think there was some grumblings about it, 28-11. SMU, of course, is getting better and has been good the last few years. Tulsa, a road game at Tulsa. 2:30 kickoff. At 5:30, UCF will play Villanova. And then at 6 o'clock, you have Miami of Ohio at Cincinnati, who I think is one of the nice surprises early on in the Big 12. South Alabama at Oklahoma State and Stillwater. Texas Tech, they need a win, and they'll get one today. Tarleton State, that game in Lubbock. And then the night game after that, Brigham Young, Arkansas, another Big 12 SEC game on the road. Pittsburgh at West Virginia. The backyard brawl, and Neil Brown needs a win, too. And then in the 7 o'clock slot, Texas at home against Wyoming. 4th-ranked Longhorns. TCU in a Big 12 game in Houston against the Cougars. And Kansas, 2-0, they'll play at Nevada.
Yeah, the backyard brawl is really interesting because Neil Brown could really do himself huge favors, at least in the interim, by beating their biggest rival and doing it at home and letting having the fans have that couch burning moment that they so desperately crave. But he's playing. Look, we talked to him at Big 12 Media Days. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder, and he needs to. So he needs to rally that through here the next couple weeks. Penn State handled them as everybody kind of thought they would, and they've beaten Duquesne. So we really don't know who West Virginia is yet, and this is a chance to show that they might be a little bit better. Pitt lost to Cincinnati. Phil Jurkovec is under 50% passing on the year, so maybe they're not quite as good as they thought they were going to be, but we'll see tonight.
I think there are 3 games that spotlight K-State at Missouri, Brigham Young at Arkansas, Pittsburgh at West Virginia. No, I take that back because the Big 12 game between TCU and Houston. Those are the 4 games to me that kind of set up the weekend of whatever it might be for the Big 12. Craig, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, those are some interesting games. BYU being at Arkansas, I think obviously like Kansas State going and playing an SEC team on the road is a nice test, even though Arkansas, like Missouri, is not the top of their division, much less the top of the league, but still, talented players like KJ Jefferson. So, good opportunity to face a name opponent and get a, nice potential win on the road. I think, Texas, it'll be interesting to see how they, respond to the Alabama performance last week. Is there a little bit of a letdown? Although we know Wyoming beat Tech, so you aren't necessarily underestimating them. But then again, I don't know that you were ever all that scared to begin with, and I don't know that it really changes your opinion too much because you feel you're much better than Wyoming, but just how sharp are they coming off of the Alabama win? Houston, I think, is really riding a thin line right now. I think with the way the season has started off, they were very fortunate to beat what now looks like it's a pretty bad UTSA team, honestly. UTSA getting beat last night, no Frank Harris. He wasn't good when he was playing. He was dinged up. So Houston got that win. But besides that, if it wasn't for that, then I think we'd be talking even more harshly about Dana Holgorsen and sort of where they are. So, interested to see what kind of crowd they have and what kind of enthusiasm there is to open up Big 12 play officially with a quality opponent like TCU. And then, how does Oklahoma look after all the Jeff Lebby, nonsense this week with the Art Briles picture and him being on the field last week, and then Lebby having to apologize for it and clearly getting reprimanded, and all of what happened there is still, I think, bubbling. And I'm curious to see, just how normal it is for the Sooners and what that offense looks like. Because quite frankly, their offense hasn't looked that great with Dylan Gabriel. I mean, they've won their first 2 games. The first one was easy because they were so much better. Last week was a struggle, and I know there's some chirping about, hey, we'd rather see Jackson Arnold back here.
Yep.
So you combine that with Lebby's misstep last week, and just wondering what the climate's like in Norman, Oklahoma, but they should win today. But that's an interesting backstory. So, yeah, there's a lot of, matchups that are just good in general, but also some other storylines as well that should make it a pretty fun slate.
Big 12 needs a couple of nice non-conference wins outside of what Texas was able to do in Tuscaloosa last week, 34-24. K-State, Missouri, Brigham Young at Arkansas, and then, of course, the game I mentioned as well between the 2 Big 12 teams in Texas, TCU and also Houston. When we come back, we'll go over a stat. Craig mentioned UTSA. One of the college games last night was Army and UTSA. If you get behind Army, you have created a big-time problem. They're pretty good, and then when they have the lead in the ball, you may not see it for an extra 8 or 9 minutes. We'll have that stat that Sam Kahn put up late last night on Twitter and more. This, and thanks for your time this morning, is Game Day Live.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
When the sun rises over Central Texas, we know there's work to be done. So if you need to dig, haul, cut, lift, mow, or anything in between, your local Bobcat dealers in Waco and Temple have all the equipment you'll need to get the job done right. We sell, we rent, and we've got parts and service to keep you up and running, no matter where the job takes you. There's work to do. Let's get it done.
What sets Hillcrest Dental Care apart is our vision of how we want to help other people be able to smile and be healthy and improve their quality of life.
When I came in, I had no teeth from here back because the bridge came off.
We were able to use dental implants, commonly referred to as a smile in a day, and literally take out the bad teeth and put in the new permanent teeth all in one day.
It looks natural to me. I don't feel guarded now. I'm enjoying my teeth.
ABC believes everyone deserves the unwavering love of a pet. First-time and under-resourced pet owners need info and affordable vet care like spay-neuter. These lifelong benefits reduce euthanasia and keep pets and families together, especially when life is hard. ABC is the heart of the solution. To save the lives of more pets, our goal is to cover 24 veterinary shifts at $1,000 each.
It's Game Day Live here as we are on 365 Sports in our studio, just down from McLean Stadium on MLK and Elm Avenue, and also on KWTX. We will take you up until around 10:30, and then, of course, kickoff at just after 11 o'clock. And somebody asked last week, they said, why do you go off a half an hour earlier? Just for logistics reasons, because of getting out of here, getting to the stadium, although I don't know what the crowd's going to be like as far as at McLean Stadium after the 0-2 start, and it's Long Island, but then gives us a chance. We normally walk into the press box about the time the national anthem is playing. So we showed you the losing streak. UTSA last night against Army. This is unbelievable. 44, and this is a list. We're going to show you this list. Army had the ball for 44 minutes and 25 seconds out of 60. They had no penalties. They had no turnovers. Since 2000, 32 teams have won a game without penalties or without any turnovers. Army's the only one to do it with 40-plus minutes time of possession. So the longer you have the ball, the more opportunities to turn it over. And then again, they win. They beat UTSA and Jeff Traylor, the second loss for Coach Traylor and company. And Army is a dangerous team to play. Remember they went to Oklahoma one year, and I mean that thing went down to the wire. When they have the ball and the lead, it is almost like strychnine.
Well, and we've talked to several coaches about this, but particularly Coach Traylor last year when they played them, asked him how difficult it is preparing for them because you have to teach your scout team how to do these things. Mm-hmm. You have to go to kids who maybe not saw an offense like this when they were in high school. And you have to tell them, like, all right, so you're going to line up, and there's going to be guys, on the wings here doing this and motioning and fullbacks, and this offense is thrilled when they get 3 yards on a carry, because if they do that 3 times, if they get just a little bit extra each of those 3 yards, they've got a first down. They're going to wait until the play clock is under 5 seconds to snap it all the time. Unlike us, who we're trying to get it snapped before 5 seconds even ticks off of it. So it's so different, and it's so hard to prepare for. And if you get on the other side of it and they're in control of a game, then you're standing in not even quicksand, like slow sand. It's just like, and you can't do anything about it.
That's the second time the UTSA has lost to Army, so they just seem to have a little bit of the formula to beat the Roadrunners, and it doesn't help when your superstar, super veteran quarterback is banged up and not playing like Frank Harris was for the Roadrunners. I mean, that's a big part of why you're excited about this season, and he's not available for you. And in a game like this, I'm not sure how effective he would have been maybe anyways, because it's not like they would have had the ball that often, but maybe it gives you a little bit of a spark regardless. Kudos to Army for playing, keep away and playing clean and playing a pretty perfect game. I know that Traylor said after the game it was embarrassing. So they're feeling pretty, stymied by the loss last night and a little flustered, I think. I mean, I'm sure he'll get it back on track and it'll be all fine when it's said and done. But, yeah, this is not the beginning of the season start that you drew up for UTSA. And whenever we talked to him a couple times during the offseason, I mean, he made mention of how difficult the schedule was, or we made mention to him about how difficult the schedule was. And they've got, Tennessee up next? Mm-hmm. So they're about to be 1-3.
Yeah.
And that's not at all what you thought with Frank Harris coming back and how it was lined up. But you knew that there was also a possibility given the schedule. And, here we are. So very important to see what they look like next week. But, that's what Army does. And every once in a while they jump up and bite you.
All right. One other note. I don't know if you saw this in college basketball with the basketball season practices around the corner. Arterio Morris, who played for Texas last year, he had some domestic violence issues, played for Texas last year, moved to KU, is a part of the Kansas basketball team, and the Kansas City Star reporting last night that he has been suspended following a rape allegation. So a young man who had a troubled and checkered past, and I got to give Kansas one of the Rock Chalk blogs said when you take a player like that has a history, you also then have to take the heat when something happens, but that's an allegation. But Arterio Morris, and we're not really all that far away from basketball season. Kansas is fine with or without him, but that's kind of a dark spot right now, even before the season begins.
Yeah, but it could be a rare misstep from Bill Self in that, you don't take a guy like that might, when you have the transfer portal in your Kansas, that's a scholarship they could have used that now is burned because it's almost the season.
Yeah, I don't, know what to think too much of it until we learn more information. But, there's certainly times where, there's false allegations made. There's times where there's not. I don't know what the case is here. So refrain from, making a judgment or anything like that. But, you do start to go like, all right, you're getting caught up in an awful lot of these things compared to just your average person. It's a couple pretty major accusations or what have you in the last year. So, yeah, not sure what's going on there, but obviously a situation that we'll continue to monitor and that needs to be looked into further by, actual law enforcement, but not a good look, and especially not if, this does result in something pretty serious. It makes you scratch your head and go, why? Why even take that risk, and what made you, decide that was the best move for your program? So we will see, because there's obviously more to come here.
Congratulations last night. The Baylor volleyball team, 18th ranked team in the country, beat 19th ranked Ohio State in an exhausting 5-set match, and Baylor winning in that match 3 sets to 2. One other note, Paul, back to the Army, UTSA, and Craig's stat of winning perfectly, almost like flawlessly. The last team prior to that to do it with more time of possession. It was 36 minutes and 31 seconds. Alabama in 2014 beat A&M 59-0. I think you went to that game in Tuscaloosa.
I was
there.
That
was the most time of possession to reach the threshold of what Army did with no turnovers and also with the time of possession and no penalties.
Yes, it was the most disappointed I've ever seen my dad. As a matter of fact, he was so excited to be there in the morning and so pissed off to leave the place in the afternoon. But yeah, I was at that game. That was the end of Kenny Hill's starting career at A&M. Obviously, we know he went on to TCU. And yeah, that was an absolute beatdown from the jump. And then you don't even realize, like, when you're at a game like that and you're sitting in the stands, it's one of those things where about halfway through the second quarter, you go, has A&M had the ball?
Yeah. No.
And then you realize, like, it's been like 7 minutes since that's happened. And then they have it for 30 seconds, and then 7 more minutes passes.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a disastrous 59-0 Alabama beating A&M. That was the longest or most time of possession, no penalties, no turnovers, prior to last night's game with Army beating UTSA. We'll get to the top 25 outside of the Big 12. We'll have Garrett Ross's top 3, the keys to the game, and then also J.J. Joe around the corner, former Baylor quarterback, also Ricky Thompson, and we'll be live with Taylor Young in just a matter of time, former Baylor star linebacker, and this is 365 Sports and KWTX and Game Day Live.
Cars priced right both day and night at Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, Your Bank for Life, 3 Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Furno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Joined by J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, Baylor radio color analyst, and also can talk about many things, not just what happens with Baylor moving forward.
JJ, defensively, there was obviously a better energy, better effort, and, still some things to clean up. But how much do you put, how much do you grade the progress versus also what Utah had at their disposal in terms of Bryson Barnes and his inability to really get anything? Like, how much do you weigh the defensive progress versus also keeping in mind the opponent that they were playing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Cam Rising makes that game totally different.
Right.
Baylor's got to score 30 to win that game.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, man. That made that different. But I was excited to see the energy. I thought early. I think Gabe Hall made a play really early in the game, first drive that Utah had. Matt Jones probably played the best game. I wrote that today. I just got done with it. Of probably his career here. If not, it's really close. I thought as far as a personal performance. So I thought the defense did well. Of course, they couldn't really test our secondary because Cam wasn't in there, and that made a difference. But I think that's a marked improvement from last week. And now the question will be is how fast can we build on that? Can we get pressure? Because pressure is going to be of the utmost importance for this team, just because you have that young secondary trying to find their way.
J.J. Joe with us on 365 Sports. So this program inexplicably has now lost 6 in a row. And, J.J., we got into it last week because it was a horrible loss, and then Texas State loses against UTSA. But it's lost 6 in a row. What do you think is the feeling right now within that coaching staff?
Well, within the coaching staff, those guys care more than anybody. They're the ones that invest most of the time. So I have no doubt that it's eating them up because, you don't win a championship, less than about 2 seasons ago, and then all of a sudden get here and not eat at you. So I know Coach Dave Aranda is on a path as he can be, and so is Coach Grimes and Coach Powlett. But this team is, I wrote this today. I know you guys don't have it yet, but it'll be in my article. It's lost its way. That's all I can say. It's lost its way, and in a short period of time, we've forgotten how to win. And we've gone from a program that just knew how to win, knew how to pull it out, to one that's looking for what's going to happen next. And that's a hard place to get out of. And we've found every which way but loose of how to lose a game. We've lost it every kind of way. So, if I don't know the answer, the coaches, I know they're searching for the answer. And it has to start with the players, the leaders, the seniors. Those guys have to make a determination of what this season is going to be. Because those coaches, I can tell you, they're working hard. They're trying to put the schemes in place, but, man, this is a hard one to get out of.
JJ, you mentioned it there, and I was going to ask you about it. This 6-game losing streak it's almost easier when you've got a team that always loses. Well, didn't cover the tight end again. That guy scored 4 touchdowns, and they lost. The defense can't stop the run. This team, like you said, has found – in the 6 different losses, there obviously are some overlaps, but honestly, this game was different than the Texas State game, which was different than Air Force, which is different than Texas and Kansas State, all going back, which is different than TCU. So if you look at those 6 losses, there's not a through line. So how hard is it to figure out? Because clearly they can't get all 100 guys pulling the rope the same direction each Saturday.
Yeah, man, that's what these guys get paid a lot of money to do. They got to figure it out. And I know Mac Rose talking to Coach Aranda. I know he wants performance, and Coach Aranda's talking to his coaches and down the line. But it's a hard one to get out of. And I'll tell you, the one thing I wrote today that you guys will see get posted is, man, the one thing I know, football is about X's and O's. You've got to have good coaches with good schemes, and I think we have good coaches with sound schemes, good schemes. But at the end of the day, this is about the Jimmies and Joes, my man. And the thing, if you ask me, what maybe itches me a little bit to be an offensive player is it is inexcusable to me for certain guys not to touch the ball a certain number of times. Unless the team is just putting 2 or 3 guys on and they can't get it. And I look at that and say, The reason you won in 21 is because Abram Smith ran the ball almost 300 doggone times, and Treston Ebner touched it, and Tyquan Thornton touched it. I love Dominic Richardson, but he is what he is. He's a very good, solid workhorse back that's going to get those chains moving. But the game breakers are not touching the ball. And y'all know who the game breakers are. I know who they are. And they cannot touch the ball 8 times a game for this team to win. And if they keep doing that, if you don't figure out a way how to scheme up the ball to let speed guys touch the ball, playmakers touch the ball, you'll lose. But what was the score? 13-16, whatever we lost by. And you just won't score a touchdown. It's too hard in this league to consistently drive that ball like you got to and score a touchdown. Now, did we miss some stuff? Yeah, we missed some deep balls. But you know what? I like throwing to a guy who can run, really run. Because if you throw it right, or even if you throw it wrong, sometimes they'll go get it and make it right?
JJ, I agree with you. Are you referring to Monterey Baldwin?
I am. I mean, I'm not in practice. Like I said, I wrote this down. I don't know what's going on in practice, whatever. But for Monterey, he's not only falling off the reception list, he's falling almost off the participation list. So, and to me, if I have a guy on scholarship that ran a 10.66 in high school, the one thing I'm going to do to you about 3 or 4 times, I'm going to line you up outside and you're going to run vertical at least 3 times. And I'm just going to see if they can guard you. And he's proven to me, and I don't know what's going on in practice. I don't know if he's not performing or what. He's shown us that he can make a play every once in a while. And him not touching the ball at all is surprising. And Tevin Reese having 14 rushes in 2 weeks to me for a team that's struggling to score is surprising to me as well.
We appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, Smoak. Appreciate it.
JJ Joe, Baylor Radio, former Bears quarterback.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
I'm Carol Weaver, your Central Texas mattress expert at Waco Mattress Center, serving all of Central Texas with top-rated brands like Sealy Posturepedic, Stearns & Foster, and the best-selling Tempur-Pedic. We have over 60 models on our floor with same-day delivery available. We make it easy to choose a great night's sleep. You'll be glad you came to Waco Mattress Center. We will not be undersold and you will get world-class service. I'm Carol Weaver. Thank you for your business and keeping it local.
At Dr. Smiley, you're always our top priority. Dr. Lee, Dr. Lim, and the friendly staff are committed to delivering exceptional and professional care in general, family, cosmetic, and emergency dental services. Get $2,699 implant, abutment, crown, 3D CBCT scan, and consultation with IV sedation available. Dr. Smiley accepts Medicaid and most dental insurance. Call Dr. Smiley today at 254-732-2606 and book your appointment now.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Watch KWTX News at 4.
Welcome back into Game Day Live. I'm Garrett Ross with today's Keys to the Game presented by Richard Carr Motors. I mean, I know right now things aren't really great here in Waco. When it comes to Baylor football, there's a lot of animosity. It's 0-2 right now. If you go back to last season, Baylor's currently riding a 6-game losing streak, which is really not ideal for any program in the nation. And then that's kind of caused a rift right now. If you go and look, you have some of the fans not enjoying the game day atmosphere. There's a lot of animosity towards the administration and the communication between both parties. And it's just winning right now is ideal, I think, to get everything back on track for Baylor. This is one of those situations where a lot of programs in the country face similar situations. I do think Dave Aranda is the right guy for the job. I think overall, if you look how Baylor has to navigate the current landscape of college athletics, especially on the football side, Dave Aranda fits the bill. I understand that it's also year 4. You would like to see more progress, and I'm guilty of this myself. I've thought about this a lot over the past week for Baylor. But you had 17 starters. get an opportunity for the first time. Okay, if you look at that over the course of the first 2 games, I think that really plays into how things have unfolded. And while that's not ideal, I think you got to take it with a whole different perspective and just look at the situation for what it is. But as we head into this game, Long Island's coming into town to face Baylor, and this is a program who Baylor should really have no problems with. Long Island has struggled to get their offensive going against Ohio. They struggled to get it going against Bryant. And you're probably going to deal with a backup quarterback. This offense has been able to only muster up 10 points per game right now. And I think when you look at this Baylor defense, they're going to do a good job of holding them intact. So let's get to the keys to the game here for the Long Island Sharks. First up, you got to get your playmakers involved. I think that's been the real concern for me when I'm looking at Baylor over the first 2 games of the year. Last year, Richard Reese balled out. I mean, there's no denying it. The young man put up over 900 yards rushing on the ground. He set a freshman record for yards. And if you go and look at the first 2 games this year, he's not being used. Sawyer Robertson has gotten more carries and more yards than him, which is a problem in my eyes. I think Dominic Richardson has come in and done a good job of doing exactly what he was brought in to do and kind of take over that Abram Smith role, right? I think everybody wants to get back to Abram Smith, Treston Ebner. And when you look at a guy like Dom Richardson, I think he's the perfect Abram Smith compromise, which should mean that Richard Reese should be used the way Treston Ebner was in this reliable, violent offense. That hasn't been the case right now. That is a situation where I think you've got to get the offensive line more aggressive. You got to get them opening up those big holes and letting those guys hit the seam and run. Right now, that's not happening. That has got to be something that is fixed this week. Another situation where I was really concerned last week, the tight ends. If you go back and look at the game against Texas State, Drake Dabney had arguably one of his best games as a Baylor Bear and really one of the best performances as a tight end in general when it comes to Baylor athletics. But last week, he was just neglected. And, I know Sawyer Robertson hurt his ankle in that game, and that kind of changed the dynamic of Baylor's offense. But to me, that's a situation where if your young quarterback is immobile right now, you should be drawing up ways and drawing up plays to get your safety blanket, your tight end, who is elite, open in the middle of the field. That wasn't something that we saw happen last week, and I think that's something you really need to get established if you're Baylor and you want to get this offense back on track, especially with the Texas team coming into Waco next week. The second key to today's game is pretty simple. You've got to eliminate the mistakes. Like if you go back and look at the first week, I know it was a really bad performance overall for Baylor. But at the same time, I think if you eliminate, maybe self-inflicted movement on the offensive line in front of your home crowd multiple times, maybe if you don't turn the ball over so much, I think you probably put yourself in a position to where you can win that matchup. And then you go back out last week, right? It's another situation where I understand you're facing arguably one of the better defenses in the nation and probably one of the best you're going to see all year long, but it was still more of the same. It was more of not getting the cadence right, not being on the same page in communication if you're the offensive line with Sawyer Robertson, and you just had too many costly penalties there where you would get yourself in position, you would have a nice rhythm going on offense, boom, the whistle blows and you're taking a step back. And that makes your red zone offense efficiency really poor because Baylor hasn't been able to take advantage of that once they got on that end of the field. And then if you look at the end of the game, right, like Sawyer Robertson is making, I know like in the first game against Texas State, he's trying to make a play with his legs. He's young. And I commend him for doing it, right? Like he's running the ball at the sideline. He gets popped. He fumbles. That's going to happen. That's just a situation where he's got to make better decisions. He needs to slide in that moment. And then if you go back and look last week at the interception that really flipped the game on its head and put Utah in position to really capitalize, that's a throw that just can't be made. And so I think it's little things like that Baylor needs to tighten up. And when you're facing an opponent like Long Island, this is really the week you need to do it. You should honestly approach this game if you're Baylor like an open practice with another team. Just like you see in the NFL with the preseason. Just be efficient, take care of your business, get it right here because next week you better be ready because things are going to be different. Last up, better communication in the secondary. I know this is a young group right there. When you got guys like Chateau Reed, Devin Bobby, DJ Coleman, you have a lot of young bodies in the secondary right now. And when you're that young in the secondary, you really don't know what you're going to get until the shots are fired. It's live action. And I think that's what you need to see is better communication. And you need to put yourself in positions to cut off the boundary. Make sure that you can try to create some turnovers. Baylor hasn't been able to do that really since last year. That's one area where they have significantly struggled is generating turnovers. I think if you get some better communication on the back end, you build more of a camaraderie, a bond, and people understand the instincts, like where your break is going to go. You just see it happen naturally before it unfolds. I think that's where you're going to see Baylor become more successful in the end. It's going to come. I have a lot of faith in the young group that they have back there. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And I know I keep talking about looking next week, and you don't want to ever overlook an opponent, but realistically, Quinn Ewers carved up Alabama. He left no doubt he is the best quarterback with the best weapons in the Big 12, and I think you need to use this week to prepare for what's going to happen next week, because if you can't do it now, you can't do it against Long Island. There's just no way you're going to be able to do it next week in reality. There's just no way. So I think you need to really capitalize on this opportunity right here. Better communication. Make a goal, like get 3 turnovers, generate at least 2 or 3 interceptions, give the ball back to your offense and let them put some points on the board. I think that's one thing you definitely need to see because there is not complimentary football being played right now here in Waco. That's going to do it for today. As far as the keys to the game, we'll be back with more Game Day Live right after this.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
Shelly's business needs to be more efficient, and she heard hybrid meeting would help. She called Asbel Electronics, and we took her vision and created a space that was easy to use and maximized live interaction in the office while fully interacting with customers and remote workers. Pastor Dave wanted to live stream his Sunday services, so he called Asbel Electronics. We implemented technologies that brought the in-church experience to the living room while minimizing volunteers' workflow. Let us make your vision come true. Contact Asbel Electronics for all your professional audio-visual needs.
Hello, I'm Sharon Kerr, and I recommend Tony Lenore and Centex Roof System to all my friends, my family, and clients.
When it came time to replace our roof, making an investment in your home. And when you're doing something like that, you want to make sure it's somebody that's got high character, which made Centex Roof Systems the obvious choice.
Well, I had a hail claim, and Centex Roof Systems made a stressful situation into a very easy situation.
For your hometown roofer, we approve this message.
Game Day Live, 365 Sports and KWTX. I'm David Smoak with Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. Next week, a programming note, the 6:30 kick time with Texas and Baylor. We will be on that day from 4 until 5:30, 4 until 5:30 on the CW. Today, and of course, last week, it has been KWTX. We will, we're still working on Taylor Young, but we will hear from Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver who does the sideline work for the radio call. He'll join us a little bit later on today. And we'll have our final thoughts on the game with Long Island at some point, too. We'll take you to 10:30. Let's go over the top 25. And some games probably maybe not much to say about them, but we'll start with FSU, one of the most impressive teams so far this year. On the road, an ABC game, 11 o'clock kicks. These are 3 11 o'clock kicks in the top 25. Florida State at Boston College.
24.5-point favorites. They should easily cover that if they play like they have the first 2 weeks. But they are down 3 starters and 2 on the offensive line today. So that should be something to monitor when it comes to Florida State.
Penn State, number 7 at Illinois. Illinois losing that game against Kansas on Fox at 11 o'clock. Penn State, number 7 in the country. LSU on the road against Mississippi State and ESPN kick at 11 o'clock. The Tigers right now have slipped to 14th in the country.
We had Mike Scarborough on the show yesterday, Smokey, our buddy from TigerBait.com, and there's a little bit of tension right now in Baton Rouge, guys, about the defense and where it's headed because Mike said it's the worst defense he's seen since like 2000 and I want to say 9 or 8 with LSU, and that was not a good LSU defense. So they're a little worried about that, especially the front seven and what they're doing with Harold Perkins and all of those things. But it'll be interesting in a Mississippi State offense run by a veteran quarterback in Will Rogers. But I tend to think that LSU is going to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, Will Rogers is a good player, and Mississippi State with him at the helm has a chance, especially with LSU's defense struggling. They do seem to be a bit off. At least you chalked it up in that first game. Oh, it's Florida State, and it kind of masks some of probably what's ugly because you just give credit to the fact that the other team is pretty good. But now you look a little further, and yeah, there's reasons to think, okay, this might actually be like a problem facing us here. So I think we'll get another glimpse of evidence today, but definitely not a game you can sleep on if you're LSU.
Well, again, that's 11 o'clock. Those are 3 11 o'clock kicks. We've already given the top 25 teams in the Big 12, and they play, of course, Kansas State, an 11 o'clock kick as well at Missouri. There's Weber State at Utah. Utah coming off the win against Baylor, where they came from 13-3 down to win. Central Michigan at 1:30 at number 9 Notre Dame. And there's a nice chunk at 2:30, including top-ranked Georgia against Spencer Rattler and Coach Beamer in South Carolina. That game, number 1 Georgia getting perhaps, if there will be a test, perhaps we'll see that with the passing game. But last year, I think this game was like 49-3.
Yeah, and look, what Spencer Rattler do you see? Do you see the Spencer Rattler that beat Tennessee and Clemson last year, or do you see the Spencer Rattler that's a little bit all over the map? So I don't know. I think that this is a shot for Georgia to win it. I don't know how you guys see it when it comes to teams losing their long winning streaks or whatever. Usually it's not the rival that does it. Usually it's somebody weird. That's why I think there might be an opportunity here, but I do think this is the first time this year that Georgia with an SEC game might be as tuned in as they can be.
Yeah, it's definitely the best team they played. I mean, this is the most geared up they'll have been all season, which is 2 games now, but definitely the best team they played of the 3. And the Spencer Rattler thing, I mean, we'll see. I feel like we've been doing this song and dance with him for like 4 years now, and we have, of like, will he be great or will he suck? I mean, that's kind of what we do with him because he's so up and down. And I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, if Spencer Rattler plays great, then South Carolina has a chance. If he doesn't, then they don't. I think that's kind of stating the obvious, but that's also the story is, yeah, it comes down to a lot of what Spencer Rattler's able to do. But good test for Georgia.
There is the game in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. USF hosting what is now 10th-ranked Alabama after they were spanked at home by Texas. And Nick Saban is going with a different quarterback instead of Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, I think this is good in 2 regards. Look, you went and got Tyler Buchner for a reason after the spring, as you weren't that confident with Jalen Milroe then. And then after the Texas game, he didn't play well, and there's some things he has to do. But you have to protect the athletic resource that is Jalen Milroe. You do not want to throw him out there if he's not confident or if he's not ready to really be the starter week in and week out, and then ruin him forever. Like, they've got to figure out whether it is running the offense that Tyler Buchner is more comfortable with, which is clearly what Tommy Rees coached when he was at Notre Dame, and he knows Tyler Buchner because he recruited him there, or changing it almost completely to do something that's more Jalen Milroe friendly. And so I think it's a pretty smart move to move away from Milroe, just in the fact that he's such an incredible athlete. You do not want to wreck his confidence early if you do believe he does have a future at quarterback for you.
Yeah, I think smart by Saban, and it's your last tune-up before SEC play, so when else are you going to get a look at Tyler Buchner? And if something goes wrong or if Milroe is struggling, then he's going to throw a raw Tyler Buchner in there who hasn't really played all that much. So, yeah, give him some run and just see what the offense looks like with him for a little while. And, it's not even necessarily a disrespectful thing to Milroe. I mean, I know why it's going to be viewed that way by some of, he's yanking the leash early, but I think this is like, let's see what else we have as well. I mean, he could have easily have done that last week, and nobody would have batted an eye, but he chose to stick with Milroe, which is, going to be probably ignored by people who want to complain about Buckner, but he could have done it last week in the middle of that game, and nobody would have thought twice about it because – look, man, more like Milroe, deep ball, beautiful, great deep. But, man, it was like watching somebody with a hand tied behind their back trying to run that offense last week. I mean, it was painful to watch. It was all or nothing on any given play and very little in between. There was no moving down the field. It was throw it up, great pass, great catch, whatever it takes, and just hope that you burn Texas defense, and then you can somehow get a stop. And it was just painful. So I don't blame Saban at all for just shaking the tree a little bit and seeing, what comes out with Tyler Buckner. And look, if he doesn't play well, then there's Jalen Milroe. And, you know at least a little bit more about what you've got in the cabinet there.
So there's the change at quarterback for Alabama. They don't have to have Bryce Young or Jalen Hurts or Tua to be able to score or be good. They need somebody also to manage the game. And Milroe made some spectacular plays, but, man, they just weren't going to take the ball and go 9 plays, 75 yards, and complete a couple of third down plays and keep the drive alive. San Diego State.
He wasn't even able to run all that effectively either. So then it was truly
UT,
just like it was just the deep ball or it was nothing at all. And that was very frustrating to watch.
I think they would have been better just to run the quarterback wildcat with Milroe.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to protect him, but then again, it was for what? I mean, I thought they were going to run him more. But regardless, we'll see what happens today with that.
And the picks, of course, both UT defensive, the picks were deadly. Barron with the pick that deepened the territory against Alabama that really were crushing blows as the Texas defense played so well. All right, couple of three real quickly at 2:30. Oregon State home against San Diego State. Minnesota at 20th ranked North Carolina could be interesting with P.J. Fleck and Mac Brown meeting.
That's just a weird game. Like, why is this game even happening? No, that's just a weird game, weird matchup. I don't know what to think of it because it's so weird.
The ADs were at a convention together and went, let's do this.
Yeah.
Just drinking beers and going, it'll be hilarious.
Hey, it's a Power 5 non-conference.
I mean, it is, but it's the matches. Minnesota versus North Carolina. Like, there's nothing there that makes that much sense. But, yeah, I mean, that's cool. It should be a great Power 5 matchup just to see something a little bit different. But it's not just one of those that you go like, oh, man, that sounds awesome. It's just one of those I hear and I'm like, that sounds weird. But, okay, yeah, let's watch it.
Also, Iowa at home against Western Michigan. At 3 o'clock, so the Western Kentucky at Ohio State. Ohio State fans are waiting for one of those 59-point outbursts. Washington at Michigan State. Turmoil all week, the last couple of weeks in East Lansing with Mel Tucker. Allegations against from activist Brenda Tracy. Washington playing, and they've looked really good, as you expect, with Michael Penix and company in East Lansing.
Washington's skill players are so amazing. And they've got everything else too, really. But when you watch Michael Penix and those wide receivers and the running backs and just the offense that Kalen DeBoer is throwing out, man, the Pac-12 is going to be wild. It is going to be so wild this year.
By the way, that North Carolina-Minnesota game, Craig, that you said is so weird that because they'd never played before until what they're doing this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that or it's just weird. It's just a random matchup. But regardless, the Pac-12's got a lot of talent, especially at quarterback, and Michael Penix is certainly right there near the top of the list. But very curious as to how Michigan State comes out. If it's, let's rally because we're in a bad spot and the whole world's looking at us and we're the bad, they're not the bad guy, but just the program's kind of in those crosshairs of the media because of Mel Tucker. Just how do they respond to all that adversity as a team? The one thing we do know for sure is that Mel Tucker is not going to be the head coach of Michigan State for much longer. I think it's the one thing we can be pretty positive about. But, how does the team respond to all of that will be the big question mark in that game.
Okay, rattle through a few of these. There's a couple we'll stop at. Northern Colorado at 23rd ranked Washington State after their win against Wisconsin. North Carolina Central at 24th ranked UCLA. An SEC game that normally would get, whoa, watch out for this one, but Florida is still kind of trying to figure out who they are. Tennessee, 11th ranked Vols in Gainesville at the Swamp against Florida at 6 o'clock.
Joe Milton ends the losing streak in Gainesville today against the Gators. They are a little bit slow on defense, and I think that he'll stretch the field on them, and their offense is not fast enough. If Tennessee can get, I would say, a 14 to 17-point lead in this thing, it might wind up closer than that, but I don't think Florida has the offense to come back.
I think if you're a Florida fan, you're already kind of growing concerned about Billy Napier, but I think you're especially concerned given how little this matchup has been hyped this week. It's freaking Tennessee, Florida, and it's like, oh, yeah, Tennessee, Florida's this week. It's not a big deal at all. I mean, except for those fan bases, but, like, nationally, it's not dude, I've seen, like, nothing about it practically.
Game day would be there most times.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But except for Dion Mania.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been an automatic layup that they would be there. But, yeah, I mean, I think that just speaks to sort of where Florida is right now. So I think it's an interesting game, but just surprised there's not more hype for that.
4 others, Bowling Green at second-ranked Michigan. Ole Miss hosts Georgia Tech, 17th-ranked Ole Miss. Hawaii at 13th-ranked Oregon. And then, well, it's Coach Prime and Colorado, 2-0 after wins at TCU, at home against Nebraska, at home against Jay Norvell and Colorado State. That game doesn't kick until 9 o'clock Central Time. And everybody's there, it appears, with ESPN, Game Day, and Fox big noon kickoff as they ride that Deion and Colorado wave.
And the Colorado team all has new sunglasses, courtesy of Deion Sanders and really, I guess, Jay Norvell. So, you know, this week's chip on the shoulder is that. So I think Colorado wins this game. But I don't know, like, Jay Norvell is either crazy or crazy like a fox for doing this. So we'll see.
I mean, I respect that he just doesn't care. I respect that he doesn't care that he was going to, you know, obviously have his comments made public. He even said, like, put it on there. I don't, you know, I mean, he said what he said. I don't necessarily agree with it, but, you know, he put his neck out there, and we'll see if, you know, Deion's pulling the guillotine later on tonight. Probably so, just given how we kind of view those two teams and what Colorado's looked like through a couple of games. But, man, if Colorado State were to give them some trouble, that would certainly make for an interesting night. And, you know, I give all credit to Deion and the Buffs for their start, but it is kind of gross to see just the media just slobbering the way that they are. Baby. I understand why. I get it. Like, I'm not blaming Deion. I'm not blaming Colorado. I think it's great for them, soak it up, but it is just kind of gross seeing the media just slobber all over them and congregate the way they have. But it's a big weekend. Colorado is deserving of, you know, the hype they're getting because of the hype that they've created and the way it's paid off through 2 games. So we'll see that probably continue later on tonight.
And what would have happened had they just not won the game at TCU 45-42 in the shootout? It still would have been interest, but it would have calmed a lot of those things down. And now when you have it, they run with it. And obviously the network's picking up on it too. Thanks to those of you in the chat room. Tim Salinas opened up with us today. Want to say thanks to Chris. Also, many others who are in the chat room. Ryan, Allen. Also, thanks to a lot of the comments about even games involving A&M or Texas or Baylor or teams out of the state of Texas. We appreciate your time throughout the morning today. We're not done. When we come back, former Baylor wide receiver and sideline reporter Ricky Thompson, and we'll also go check back in with Chad Botharine at McLean Stadium to see what's happening less than an hour away from kickoff, and this is Game Day Live. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, bar, silver sneakers, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements. New flooring in the weight room floor and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, and many new machines have been added and arriving constantly on the weight room floor. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new ellipticals on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Box, and welcome to Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. A kids club included with your membership, plus sauna, whirlpool, and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com or visit us at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Furno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Ricky Thompson on Wednesdays joins all 3 of us, Craig and Paul. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports.
Ricky, what would you say is the problem of a team who finds different ways to lose as opposed to one where you can pinpoint the reason it always loses, like if they can't stop the run? But this Baylor team is, I said yesterday, like playing whack-a-mole. Like as soon as they think they fix one thing, another thing pops up, and that's why they lose a game.
Paul, I think a lot of that leadership, and I'm not knocking these players and saying there's no leaders out there, because if there's anybody that supports them, it's me. But I just think go back to 21 and that season with guys like Terrell and Tyquan Thornton on the offensive side and the offensive line and Jalen Petrie. Those guys found a way to win the game. I mean, how many close games did we have that year? You finished 12-2, and there were a bunch of games that could have gone either way, and it seems like we ended up winning them all. That were those one-score games, tight games. And I'm just not sure that these guys quite know how to do that. And it's really hard to pinpoint it. I mean, there's so many different areas, I think, that have been a problem and getting over that hump that I don't think you can go to any one item, any one player, not even any one position.
Sawyer Robertson made some mistakes. I think one pick might have been a broken route or communication issue. And then, of course, there was the deadly pick near the end of the game. Overall, how do you feel being down on the field? I know it's loud, but overall, how did you see him handle his first ever collegiate start?
I thought he handled it fine. I mean, we're talking about a completely inexperienced guy at the college level. The week before, he took his first snap under center ever in a ball game, including junior high and high school. So quite a change for him. And then to get that first start against Utah, as we said, Pac-12 champions 2 consecutive years, I thought he handled it well. I thought his game changed when he hurt his ankle. And I thought that was obvious. The first interception, that ball was to Josh Cameron. I was behind that play and happened to be watching that one pretty closely. I don't know what the call is for the receiver and the quarterback, but if I had my guess, I think Josh slowed his route down. I thought he saw a safety flash and maybe he sat down instead of continuing the route that Sawyer thought he was going to run. So I think maybe you can put that more so on receiver than quarterback. The second one, young guy, I know he was about to take a sack and maybe lose 8 or 9 yards, but in that case, you just eat it. Punt the ball away and try to hold them, because once you throw the pick, they're on the 35-yard line, 30. That was pretty much the ball game.
Ricky, how much can this be a get-right game for Baylor?
Oh, Paul, I don't know. I mean, against a team like Long Island, I'm not knocking Long Island, but this is a team, with all respect to them, we should go in there and dominate this football game. And I don't know how much you get right dominating a team you're supposed to dominate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it would be more so if you were coming in and playing a Texas Tech or Houston or a Big 12 opponent, and you really just took it to them and won the football game and won it handily. I think that's a get-right game. I think this is just a game that you've got to win and you need to dominate, or you really continue that negative trend of the way the season's going. So more than get right, I think this is just one that you've got to have and you've got to go dominate. And I think they will, but I also think you have to.
Yeah, kind of. If they don't, then the hot seat's blazing like a 5 alarm fire. But I mean, just how much do you think just getting a win against somebody would help this team's psyche and just kind of everything, Ricky? Not that it would be some massive win, but just to snap the losing streak, to have some guys who are freshmen and younger players playing, just taste a win right before conference play. Do you think that's important, or is that a little bit overblown?
No, I don't think it's overblown at all. Particularly when you've lost 6 in a row.
Yeah.
Going back into last year, I think that is a very valid point. And we could be playing my old high school, Gatesville High School, and get the win and add some momentum. And it's just that feeling after a game of coming into the locker room after win and getting to celebrate a little bit and feel good about yourself for the next week. So I think it goes a long way to beat anybody. So maybe the timing of Long Island coming in is better than even I could think. But I still think it will be better to come in and beat somebody like a Tech to get that really the season on the right track. But right now, we take a win against anybody. It's been a long time, guys, since we felt that. In fact, I can remember the game. It was in Lubbock, and that one felt really good with no idea it would be the last for some time.
Thank you very much. We'll see you Saturday.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ricky Thompson, former Baylor and NFL receiver Ricky Thompson, Baylor sideline radio analyst.
If you like saving money, you'll love Du Bois Furniture's Labor Day sale. It starts with savings of up to 60% off furniture store-wide. But that's not all. Save even more with secret in-store discounts or special financing now at Du Bois Furniture.
Shelley's business needs to be more efficient, and she heard hybrid meeting would help. She called Asbel Electronics, and we took her vision and created a space that was easy to use and maximized live interaction in the office while fully interacting with customers and remote workers. Pastor Dave wanted to live stream his Sunday services, so he called Asbel Electronics. We implemented technologies that brought the in-church experience to the living room while minimizing volunteers' workflow. Let us make your vision come true. Contact Asbel Electronics for all your professional audio-visual needs.
When the sun rises over Central Texas, we know there's work to be done. So if you need to dig, haul, cut, lift, mow, or anything in between, your local Bobcat dealers in Waco and Temple have all the equipment you'll need to get the job done right. We sell, we rent, and we've got parts and service to keep you up and running, no matter where the job takes you. There's work to do. Let's get it done.
Now during Du Bois Furniture's Labor Day mattress sale, get a great night's sleep on a new mattress for less. Raise your sleep comfort and save up to $800 on Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Tempur-Pedic adjustable sets. Now at Du Bois Furniture.
You can count on KWTX, the weather authority.
Game Day Live on KWTX 365 Sports. David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak, and Garrett Ross runs the mothership. So Dave Aranda, Baylor under Dave Aranda, 12-7 at McLean Stadium. 10-5 in the last couple of years. They have 8 home games, and 2 of them are already losses. There are 6 to go, including next Saturday against highly ranked Texas at 6:30. So you look at it, Craig brought this up, the last time they won a home game was 11 months ago. Now, I know that football season doesn't go 12 months a year, but it's been nearly a year. October, I think, 22nd, they beat KU. They've lost to TCU, they've lost to Utah, they've lost to Texas Tech. In this stretch, they have 8.
They didn't lose to Tech.
And what?
They didn't lose to Tech, Texas State.
They lost to TCU, Texas State, and Utah. They are in this streak at home. You want 8 home games? Boy, you got to take advantage of them. If you lost to Utah, okay, that's disappointing. You'd like to win the game. But it does seem like forever, and it has been forever in that 12-7 under Dave Aranda at McLean Stadium. That's still not a staggeringly good number.
No, and they've got to get some wins, not only just today, which should be automatic, but they've got to string some together, because if it's a win here, 2 or 3 losses, a win, 2 or 3 losses like that, I mean that you're not really improving your situation.
They just need to win a freaking game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we are at this point, and this is their best opportunity to do so. I just think that everybody needs to get their mouth washed out, get a little rinse of just the bad taste that's been there for a few games. Not trying to be overly negative, but they've lost 6 straight games, and they've lost them in a variety of awful ways, whether it's brutal 1 second, 3 seconds remaining against TCU, or it's the Ice Bowl against Air Force, or it's the loss last. I mean, just all the variety of ways. They just need to win on their home field and go home happy for the first time in a long time. And I think that'll do this program a world of good. And I think that's what we see today.
Chad Botharine from KWTX at McLean Stadium joined us back about an hour ago and joined us again, Chad. And again, we discussed who's going to be there today because of the disappointing start to the season and the Long Island being the opponent. Thanks for being a part of it. What have you seen so far in the last hour, if anything?
Yeah, Dave, well, thanks for having me on. I've seen actually life here kind of outside of McLean Stadium. I've seen a little bit of smiles, and, maybe that's because the food, maybe that's because, the tailgate scene. It's always fun, but I have seen, I think, more fans than what you would expect for 2-0-2 teams in week 3, especially this Long Island team. But I'm seeing some life here, and, I see some positive, I guess you could say, outlooks on this game, and I'm seeing some good things so far, better than what I expected.
So, Chad, this game, just give me a final score prediction. What should Baylor do today? Oh, looks like he froze.
We lost him. Chad, again, are you back? Is that right? Oh, we'll see if we can get it. Okay, Chad Botharine, thanks for his time as he was talking.
I think I'm back.
All right. Garrett, back up. All right, Chad, sorry we lost you. Paul was asking you just really kind of a vanilla, like any kind of what you think this score should be today against Long Island.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know we talked about it a little bit. I mean, I think against a team like this, Long Island's only really been in the Division I ranks for, 4 or 5 years maybe. So I would say you got to win by 21. And, maybe some people say that's an underperformance, but I think 21-point win, 24-point win, get a couple touchdowns, score at least 40, and I think they could be sitting well with a score like that at the end of it.
Chad, thanks for your time. Chad Botharine, KWTX, with us on Game Day Live here as we're inside the studio a mile or two away. Long Island's head coach is Ron Cooper. He's a graduate of Jacksonville State. They are his second season with them, 0-2 to start the year, 4-9, and of course the first ever meeting between Baylor and also Long Island. And why are they playing Long Island? Why did they play Albany a year ago? We mentioned that. They had a home and home with La Tech, which I thought would have been a great home and home, but La Tech wanted to get a series with Missouri, looking to flip up their schedule to get an extra home game in one of these 2 years, and so they pulled out. And Baylor was trying to find somebody. And believe me, I would think if you ask anybody, they'd rather it not be Albany and or Long Island. Go out and win the game easily. In fact, speaking of that, we'll come back and give our final thoughts. Game Day Live on KWTX and 365 Sports.
Game Day Live, sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Central Texas Plumbing Solutions, and Centex Roof Systems.
Hi, I'm John Proctor with Home Place Interiors. You know, nothing compares to the quality of an area rug to finish your house. Come by and save 50% on all in-stock and special order rugs. Come by Home Place Interiors where quality is affordable.
For all your flooring needs, visit Home Place Interiors at 523 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
I don't know what any of this stuff is.
Is the Jeep not starting?
Token, can you please come help?
Y'all call for a tow?
Yes.
Y'all call for a tow?
Yes.
Call Tow King 24 hours a day for all your emergency roadside needs.
Waco is the heart of Texas. Centrally located and home to industry-leading distribution centers like Amazon, Walmart, and Tractor Supply. From Waco, it's easy to get anywhere you want to go. And at Jeff Hunter Toyota, we have the perfect vehicle to get you there. Like the new Toyota Tundra, Toyota RAV4, Highlander, and Tacoma. Go where you want to go in a new Toyota. Find yours today at Jeff Hunter Toyota. Toyota quality, Waco values.
So tonight, it's the opening game in the Big 12 with Houston playing at home against TCU. Dana Holgerson and Sonny Dykes get together, and there's a commemorative coin. The Big 12 put this out earlier. The 23-24 Big 12 commemorative coin makes its debut. TCU and Houston, a chance to win one for yourself if you want to kind of pay attention to that link at Big 12 Conference on X. And so there you go with that. Nice to have a conference game and a bunch of them, including Baylor, Texas, next week. UCF plays at Kansas State, among some others. All right, guys. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak. Here's the bottom line. Baylor doesn't need to go out and just win the game. I think they have to go out and look clean. I don't want to see false starts. I know that's part of the game, but that's a discipline issue. Turnovers, unless it's a great play by Long Island forcing one, which I hope that's not the case if they put pressure on Sawyer. Will be interesting to see what Robertson does with that ankle being turned, because that did make a difference. Go out and beat the heck out of somebody. Look good doing it. And if this thing gets into the late second quarter and it's 13-3 or something like that, you're going to hear some boos. We had a few of them last week. I just need to see, as someone who covers college football, something that's a little bit crisp.
Yeah, signs of life. What are the problems that are haunting you? Get them right this week, because they're going to be exponentially worse if you do those things against Texas, because that is a team that's looking elite coming in here. So you've got to get those things corrected, and this is the week to get them done. Go get a win, start feeling a little bit confident in yourself, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, they need to not only win this game, otherwise that's disaster. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It doesn't matter, quarterback or, knock on wood, there's no injuries, but I mean, you definitely want to keep Sawyer Robertson healthy, but I don't see any scenario where a loss is excusable, and I don't think that that's going to be the case today, that we'll have to worry about that. I don't have any doubts in my mind they'll win this game, because that's how much of a mismatch it is. And I know what they've looked like, but they've also looked good enough to at least be 1-1. They look good enough to beat Utah, even if Utah wasn't at full strength last week. They just couldn't finish the job. This, to me, should not only be a win, it should be a convincing win. It should be a win where people, if they're leaving early, it's only because it's such a blowout and not because it's a close game. If it's a close game, that's disaster as well, because there's really not a single category, not a single talent matchup, not a single thing, a part of this game that will lead you to believe that Albany – yeah, it's Albany, right?
Long Island,
excuse me. Yeah, there you go. I'm already forgetting who they're even playing. That's how irrelevant it is. I don't care who they're playing in this case, because I think it's such a game in their favor that this should be a nice, relaxing, for the most part, enjoyable, just blowout type of a game where you're able to go home happy for the first time in a while. That's what should be expected. That's what they should expect, and that's what we should see, in my opinion, here in just a little while.
Garrett Ross, you want to chime in? Are you giving the keys to the game? I don't mean chime in as just like a little flippant thing, but you want to, go out and beat the heck out of somebody.
Yeah, this is one where it's really inexcusable if you don't come out with the dub. And I think it's really just, like y'all are saying, be efficient with everything. I kind of mentioned it in the keys to the game, but this is almost a scenario where you could approach this like an NFL team with the open practices that they have, because you should be able to capitalize on everything, be efficient in this, and just really approach it with reps and make sure you have the right amount of repetition, because you cannot have room for error at all next week against Texas. And if you can't clean it up this week against Long Island, then I have no hope for you.
All right, Garrett, thank you very much. So, Long Island, they are in this game only because another game was canceled, as I mentioned before. Baylor, just imagine how much better, Paul, you would feel, even though the Texas State loss stings, had they just finished the deal, an extra first down, a field goal that you missed at the end of the first half that might have been just enough of a difference, and you win the game. Would you feel differently about this team because it was Utah?
If they beat Utah, I don't care if it's Utah's third-string quarterback or not, that is something that that nobody really even expected them to do. If both these teams were as good as we thought they could be at their peak, a lot of people would have thought they would have lost to Utah. So beating Utah in any fashion last week would have been huge for this team and their confidence because of the way Utah plays. Because if you can go in and go knuckle to knuckle with them and get and play their kind of style of ball, that gives you confidence, because what they say, defense travels, all those things. You've got something you can build on. Now it's just another string, and they're like, well, we let it get away this time again, and that just drills their confidence down.
You forget how to win.
Yeah.
You forget how to win.
Yeah, I think beating the number 12 team in the country, no matter what, would have been a big deal. Yeah, I think that would have been massive. And given the fact that we've just spent the last 6 days talking about how bad things are, I think that would have changed the conversation immensely, because they would have won a game. They would have won a game over the number 12 team in the country, and we would be talking about, how they have to beat this gimme win on their schedule by a certain way, or how do it a certain way to make people feel better. So, yeah, obviously the beating Utah would have been a massive deal for them, no matter how it would have happened. And we would be having a totally different conversation today. So that wasn't what happened, though. And they got an opportunity here in 30 minutes to go and get a win and, again, kind of clean their palate a little bit, and I expect that's what we'll see. And anything other than that would be shocking and in the worst type of way, and that would lead to an entirely different conversation that you think this is a downer. Well, get ready. Go lose to Long Island, and let's see what the conversation looks like. But, again, I'm not expecting that in any way, shape, or form.
All right, Garrett Ross again running the mothership. We've given you all of what's happening with the top 25. We've mentioned there are a chunk of games in the Big 12 that will bring of interest, including that Kansas State game at Missouri, Brigham Young at Arkansas, the conference opener between Houston and also TCU, two teams that need a win, and that is kind of fun to see. And then we jump right smack into it, of course, next week with everybody getting into Big 12 play. Win the game, be convincing, and this is not going to be close. And if it is, like you all said, it's going to be a disastrous next few weeks. I sit down with Dave Aranda on Monday, plus his media session after the game. But go out and win the game. I don't want to see a team that looks like they're bored, because when you've lost 6 games in a row, you cannot act like you are bored no matter who you're playing.
No, you gotta be in this every step of the way.
I'd like to see some energy. I'd like to see them look like they know what they're doing, and just have a nice game plan and, take care of their business. I don't know any other way to say it other than, like, they should win. They should win convincingly, and if they don't, then there's problems. But, again, I don't expect that. I expect that they will, and if not, then we'll obviously talk about that. But, let's call it what it is. This is a blowout. This is a game that you pay somebody to come up and get beat up. That's what this is. This is not your typical, let's look at the balance of the skin. No, this is a lopsided matchup that if it's not lopsided in the end, that spells badly for the team who's lost 6 straight and who can't even manage to beat up on a team that they're paying to beat up on.
I tell you, that's exactly right. So you see these, they paid somebody $500,000, and we've seen those teams win. This is not the case here with Long Island. And I like the infusion of youth we have seen with some of the players for Baylor, especially on the defensive end, as they're trying to learn on the fly. So for Garrett Ross, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, Chad Boffenstein, I'm David Smoak. This is Game Day Live, and thank you for your time.
Central Texas Plumbing Solution is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. So when you need some help before the big game, call Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Locally owned and operated by a Christian family, Syntex Roof Systems is the one to trust. We're the most experienced and trusted roofing company in Central Texas with the best warranty in the business, offering free evaluations with honesty and integrity from start to finish for your roofing project. Thank you for so many wonderful years, and may God continue to share His blessings upon us all.
God bless Texas.
We're your hometown roofer, and we approve this message.
Mac Hike and Temple is proud to celebrate our 20th year as a family-owned and operated business in Central Texas. And deals like these are reason for celebration. Save $10,000 off MSRP on every Ram 25 or 3500 Laramie in stock, or $13,500 on the award-winning Ram 1500 Laramie. Looking for low monthly payment? Lease a new 1500 Laramie 4x4 for only $499